My name is Ashara Ekundayo. I live in Northeast Denver, Colorado, and we're here in Commerce City, which is 2 neighborhoods from my neighborhood at the Cherokee Station, which I've never been to before. You can see it from certain parts of the highway, but I've actually never even thought to come over here. And for the last year, I've been doing some work with a group of consultants called Blue and Yellow Logic. And so we've been looking at expanding the conversation around sustainability in communities of color and poor communities, specifically around climate justice, green jobs, and urban ag. And so it's really interesting to be so close to such a large coal plant. And in our community, like the train, if you see the tracks actually are right behind us. The coal train actually runs through our neighborhood. So we see the train, every couple of hours right in our hood. And we know that, they mine the coal up north, in Wyoming and northern Colorado, and then it comes right through the hood. So here we are. And the fact that they're making the electricity, it's like anyone who is connected to, the movement that deals with climate justice and deals with, coal plants, that market is everyone who engages and uses electricity in this country, which means all of us. If we have an opportunity to have the lights on, I want the lights on, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by kind of the size of this. And it looks dangerous, and it smells kind of funky as well. The effects that it has on our community, we don't talk about those in general. We don't talk about the fact that we've regulated a whole movement in this country to a group of folks that aren't necessarily connected to our community. So particularly white folks, kind of run the environmental justice movement. They run we call them the eco-elite. They got it going on. They speak the language and they have the books, and they're the ones who lecture. They put on conferences all over the world. And they talk about what are we going to do, with these problems in our community, but they're not part of the community in the same way that we are. And, only in the last 6 months, I've had 2 asthma attacks. I don't have asthma. Never had an asthma attack in my life. And in the last 6 months, I've had 2 asthma attacks, and I'm starting to wonder if it's connected to my environment. I'm 99.9% sure that it is connected to my environment. And being that I've recently become an urban farmer, and I've been doing a lot of work around food justice and sustainability as it relates to creating jobs for young brothers who are on the corner. If you can sell me one plant, then you can sell me another, as far as I'm concerned. But when we're talking with folks who don't use the language of the movement, but they know that it sucks that all of their cousins and their brothers and their sisters have asthma. They know that it sucks that it takes 2 buses for their grandmother to get to the grocery store. It's like 3 miles from any particular point in Northeast Denver to get to a grocery store, like 600 city blocks to get to the grocery store. They know that sucks. They know that it sucks that they can only buy a 40-ounce, a Swisher stick, and some hot Cheetos at the corner. There's a church. They know all that sucks, but they don't know that there's this whole conversation happening with folks in communities of color, in white communities, and globally that are connected right to this power plant right here. And, this is pretty massive. In regards to how it relates to Northeast Denver, we're in Commerce City. It's the most toxic part of Denver, Colorado. Everyone knows that. Several years ago, there was an environmental justice campaign through some of the organizations where they scraped off a foot of dirt in everyone's yard because you can't grow your food there. When I talked to my friends who grew up in this neighborhood, they knew that they couldn't run barefoot outside. They would tell us that, like, oh no, we never got to play in the grass. We never got to do that. And just, those kind, those stories where we used to play in the grass, and we used to rake up the leaves and put them in a pile and then jump in them and play, and they didn't get to do that. And I those things that we've taken for granted, clean air. It's like, it smells out here, and in my neighborhood, like I said, 2 neighborhoods over, we live next to the Purina dog food factory. So on a good day, you kind of get this kind of wafting of, roasting horse meat. It's kind of foul. But I'm just thinking about how we're affected by the fumes that come from this, how almost everything that we use in our community is made from plastic, which is made from coal, how we don't talk about recycling in the same way. And we do talk about reusing, but not in the same way that the movement talks about it, sustainability talks about it. We talk about it because that's just what poor folks and people of color have always done. And so that's why it blows my mind when you have this conversation about, economic justice and sustainability and going green, and there's nobody in the room that has, that looks brown or, red or gold or black. And it's like, that's what we call blue and yellow logic. Now that doesn't even make sense. Even in nature, it takes more than one color to make green. Even in nature. So why do you think we can have a green movement without people of color? We can't. We can't save the world if we don't deal with this community right here. So I guess I'm feeling like I need to do a little homework. Feeling like I need to, figure out what this means, that I live so close to this power plant. Because I see the coal train go by every day. I hear it every night. And I don't think I realized that they were making the electricity just, 35 blocks from my house. I mean, it looks like we're in a totally different place. It doesn't even look like we're in the hood anymore. And we are. And it's not that far.